recording now. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is John Wilson, the national spokesman for the Freedom Union here in Australia. And today is Friday, the 13th of June. I'm in sunny Brisbane, Queensland, and tonight I've got a very special guest with me, ex-Senator, former Senator Len Harris. And Len and I are going to interview tonight and have a talk about, again, these councils. We're going to have a chat about one of the antics that these councils are now engaging in, and we're going to explore that. Len, how are you, sir? Are you all right this fine day?
I'm ready to go.
Good on you. Len, am I able to outline the problem that we're dealing with and get some feedback from you, sir?
Go ahead.
Okay. A former Senator Len Harris, some of our union members have taken a principal position in accordance with international law, and they are not paying. They're refusing to pay their council rates, and they're doing so because they believe it's illegal, unlawful for them to charge those rates. But they also believe that the payment of rates contributes to war crimes, and our union is following the international law, where we're doing everything to avoid and not participate in war crimes. So let me explain, Len, and I'll get your feedback, okay? Our members are not paying rates. Some of these councils have taken that rates, the same amount of those rates, and have passed it on to the ratepayer, the union members' bank. And the bank has then applied that same amount to their overall mortgage. So, if you owed, let's say, $1,000 in rates, your mortgage would increase by $1,000. I mean, it's outrageous conduct, Len. What's your view on a bank charging this tax? And we know the rates is not a service, it's a tax. We know that because there's no GST. And then having an unrelated third party who's not providing any services that they are being charged for, okay, and yet it's going on their mortgage. What do you think of this?
Right, well, it's absolutely, totally illegal. So let's break it down to its actual sections. First of all, the council itself is a corporation. The Commonwealth and the Queensland Corporations Act, the Queensland Act is a mirror of the Commonwealth Act. So, and in that very, very clearly in Section 8 in the Queensland, it's an unusual situation. You can usually tell when the Commonwealth is doing something that they don't have the power under the Constitution to do. They force then the state government to mirror the Commonwealth Bank, and it is the State Act that is being implemented. So the Queensland Corporation Act 1990 clearly states when administering the Act so as not to place a burden or a levy on a private person, or B, a fee or a tax. And then the Act itself then determines who is a private person. And again, it's written in the negative. So a private person is not the Commonwealth, a state, or a territory government, or an entity thereof. So the local councils are an entity of the Queensland government. So therefore, the councils are in the same situation, that they cannot put a burden or a levy on us, the people, and also they cannot charge a fee or a tax. Now, I need to clarify here, this applies to people where their property is in their personal names. Unfortunately, if people have put their property into either a trust or a corporation, that doesn't apply because they're caught as corporate entities and they're subject to the normal Corporations Act. So that's one side of it. The other side of it is, if we go back in time, or quite a few years actually, the hair wasn't quite as long or as grey, Peter Beattie was the Premier of Queensland, and he was a bit of a rascal, that lad. So in an effort to actually charge everybody in Queensland for ambulance services, he added a levy onto everybody's power bills. And that was purported to go into consolidated revenue and fund the ambulance. Well, the problem with that is that a corporation cannot charge for a service they do not provide. So, do the power companies provide ambulance services? No, they don't. So a very, very hot letter from the Senator Harris then at that time, right? And the whole thing disappeared in a cloud of dust. So that same principle with the actual councils having the bank actually add the rate charges onto a person's mortgage. But there's a far stronger and more important reason why they can't do it as well, is that we all think that we hold our property as freehold. Stop doing that. In the Westminster system, freehold, the term freehold tenure does not exist. It's absolutely a fraud that the governments have perpetuated on the Queensland people, because the government has no authority, no power, and no jurisdiction over in fee simple titles. And the reason they can't is they are an indefeasible grant directly from the Crown to the purchaser. The state government plays no part in that, none whatsoever. So the bank themselves, they're the ones that are in deep shit, because they are acting fraudulently in two ways. They're charging, or in effect, they're taking funds to actually cover the person not paying their rates. So the whole thing, what it needs, John, is your union to start a class action against all of the councils in Queensland that are doing this, and B, and this one will really rock the boat, all of the major banks, or for that matter, anybody who is funding mortgages.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Len, I do have an appointment for 11 a.m. With Birchgrove Legal, and this is our second legal matter. We've already got one underway as it relates to the Australian Taxation Act in its entirety. And this one on Monday morning, next Monday the 16th, will be to talk about these councils and their corporate status and whether or not they have the lawful authority to do what they're doing. Okay, so we have two legal matters that we are now. One is in play, the other is subject to a formal discussion on Monday, where we're going to raise this and talk this through. But involving the banks as an extension to the discussion that we've got on Monday morning, I mean, it's just another extension of how far off the leash these people really are. I mean, mind you, these banks have been smashed with hundreds of millions in fines for money laundering and all sorts of other illegal, capers. And we're going to be looking into the damage that they're causing to our union members, see if we can do something about it. But look, Len, thank you very much. Let me try and sum up what you've said. You've said
just one more point, John. Justice Kirby, he was Chief Justice, right? And I can't verbatim tell you the case, but I'll get it for you before Monday. Made a statement in handing down a decision, and the statement is, and I quote, "An entity cannot, by preambulation, write themselves into constitutionality." So what that, end of quote, what that means in plain English, the banks may write into your contract, your mortgage, that they can actually carry out certain things, right? However, if the power of the authority, power and jurisdiction isn't clearly defined in section 51 of the Constitution, they cannot do it. So
very interesting, Len.
Yes.
Len, would you accept another invitation if we can organise soon for another discussion, another interview to cover some of this ground?
Today it'd be too late.
Okay. I really look forward to our discussions,
Yes.
Len. There's a lot of this information really has and should get traction, okay? But we're going to get it out to our members, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk it through with us, Len.
That's my pleasure. And as last time, everything that I share with public people, right, is either directly from legislation or from the entity's own websites.
Yeah.
So people can be well assured it's not Len Harris saying, I think this is what it means. I'm not doing that at all.
What's your website address, Len?
The silent majority
Okay, the silentmajority.au. Okay,
Correct.
if anyone wants to, research a little bit more, that's where you can go. Look, Len, thank you very much for your time tonight, Len. It's been a real privilege, and I hope you accept my invitation for a follow-up interview. This information is very, very important that it gets out there and is discussed in the public.
Absolutely. And it's my pleasure to do it because if us oldies don't step up to the mark, the younger ones, when they're raising families and that, or prior to that, there are a lot of individual people that are purchasing property themselves, and they're all subject to this. They are flat out keeping their head above water, right? They don't have the time to do the research that you and I do. So it's
Yep.
No,
thank you, Len. It's been very, very valuable information, and thank you again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is John Wilson signing off for tonight. Tonight is Friday, the 13th of June. I'm with ex-Senator, former Senator Len Harris, and we're talking councils, rates, and their acts of criminality. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Just remember, who dares wins.
Right on, John.